Woman Things, the podcast, a show dedicated to women who want to connect with their bodies and optimize their health for a more holistic and balanced life. We are your hosts and women's health experts, Cara Moore and Kirsten Humphreys, and we will be taking you on a journey of education and empowerment.
Stay tuned each week while we break down all the hottest topics in women's health today, including food and nutrition, periods, gut and skin health, fertility, and everything in between. You can find us on Instagram at WomanThings, that's woman, WOMXN, and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform to keep up to date with all the latest episode releases. We hope you enjoy the episode today, and thanks so much for tuning in.
This podcast is sponsored by London Nootropics and A Little Find. London Nootropics are a London-based company that makes a blend of high-quality coffee with nootropic and adaptogenic tonics that help to balance the body and boost brain function. We love these coffee blends. Our personal favorite is the Grind Blend, which has a mixture of lion's mane mushroom and rhodiola that helps boost mental clarity and focus and improves overall motivation. If you love a morning cup of coffee, why not try some of these amazing blends for yourself? You can find them at londonnootropics.com or on Instagram at london.nootropics. And A Little Find are an online department store where you can discover innovative, aesthetic, and conscious brands on one single platform for all ages across all categories. We love A Little Find as it shines a spotlight on brands who have a particular focus on being eco-friendly, low-waste, and sustainable. It was from being asked, just where did you find that, many times that the idea for A Little Find was born. You can find them at alittle.find.com or on Instagram at A Little Find.
Hi, and welcome back to Woman Things, the podcast. Today, Kirsten and I are going to be talking about PMS, or premenstrual syndrome. I think almost every woman at some stage in their menstruating years has had an experience with PMS to some varying degree, and it is a really important reason to cover this topic. So as always, before we dive in, let's start with some introductions in case it's your first time here. So my name's Cara. I'm a clinical nutritionist and fertility awareness educator. In my online clinic, I work with women who are struggling with problematic periods and hormonal concerns. I help women who are struggling with their fertility conceive naturally and provide nutritional support throughout the journey of pregnancy and into early motherhood. I also coach the fertility awareness method, so I teach natural contraception to women and those who want to get more in tune with their fertility and menstrual cycle. You can find me on Instagram at fempowered_health or on my website, www.fempoweredhealth.com. And of course, as always, I'm here with my lovely friend and co-host, Kirsten Humphreys.
Hi, Cara. Thank you. So my name is Kirsten Humphreys, and I'm a registered nutritional therapist, certified health and wellness coach, and NLP practitioner. I specialize in women's health, and in particular, I work with women one-on-one online who are struggling with issues revolving around their skin, gut, period, and any hormonal concerns, as well as helping each woman to make the necessary mindset shifts to foster effective, fulfilling, and lifelong changes. I'm passionate about educating women on how to live healthier and happier lives and helping people to develop the tools to gain control over their own health and mental well-being. And you can find me on Instagram at kickstart_with_Kirsten and online on my website on knhwellness.co.uk. And I think we have to celebrate that I actually remembered to say that this time on our very last episode, because I always forget and Cara always backs me up. So thank you for backing me up all season, Cara.
That's okay. I was doing a little fist pump for you when you started to say it.
Right. So let's jump in, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
So as Cara mentioned, today's topic is on premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. And PMS is a collection of symptoms that a woman experiences in the lead up to her period and for sometimes a few days of the beginning of her period as well. It affects about 3 in 4 women, or about 75% of women in childbearing age at some point in time. So they either have had or have symptoms currently. And symptoms can range in severity. And some women, these symptoms can become more severe. So it may have a very negative impact on their life and well-being. And this could be maybe missing work or school. And in some cases, I've known some women in the past to even be hospitalized from the pain. So some of these symptoms can be quite severe, but they can also be helped through things like a healthy diet, aromatherapy, meditation, relaxation, warm baths, proper sleep, and anything that really promotes a sense of overall well-being for that woman. So some of the more common symptoms of PMS include mood swings and low mood, anxiety and irritability, tiredness and troubles with sleeping or insomnia, bloating and stomach pain, breast tenderness, headaches, lack of concentration, acne, greasy hair, appetite changes, and food cravings. Some women experience social withdrawal. And if you want to learn a bit more about how to live in tune with your cycle, you can refer to our first episode. And it talks about maybe working with your energy throughout the cycle and planning your events so that you can really tailor to your body and what your needs are. Some other things are changes in libido. You might have digestive issues like constipation or diarrhea, and you can have changes in your tolerance to alcohol. I know for me personally, lately, if I'm on my period and I have alcohol, for the last couple cycles, I've had quite extreme pain. And I think maybe just due to the combination of the alcohol as well as dehydration has contributed to that. But it's more than I've normally had. So it's just something now that I'm paying more attention that I'm noticing more. And now that I do know that I can actually work around this and sort of plan my going out events to tailor to what my body needs and wants at that time. Many of these symptoms are common, but they're not necessarily normal. And if you're experiencing a lot of these symptoms, it could be a way that the body is really trying to express that something is out of balance or needs attention inside. And it might be a good idea to visit your doctor if your symptoms are really severe to rule out any more serious conditions. And then once this is done, there are many diet and lifestyle changes that can help to improve your symptoms and really increase your quality of life. And we're going to go into this a bit later in the episode, but really living in tune with your cycle and accepting that each stage requires something different, like resting in the lead up to your period might be what you need at that time. And, really just listening to what your body needs. But as I said, we have a whole episode dedicated to this at the beginning of this season. So please, if you haven't checked it out, do.
Yeah, definitely do. I was just talking to Kirsten that I'm on my period right now, and we launched the podcast this week. So it's been a very busy month, and I've been working a lot more intensely throughout my cycle than I would have been. And I was just explaining that I'm having some weird body symptoms, which I think is just a way of my body saying, listen to me. So yeah, check out episode 1. It's got some really great information about living in tune with your cycle there. So the cause of PMS, well, PMS is a syndrome, which means it's a collection of symptoms, and the way each woman experiences that can be different. And the cause is not actually determined, but thought to be multifactorial. So the main theory was originally based around hormonal imbalances, so in particular with estrogen and progesterone. But we now know that a lot of the mood symptoms are associated with the communication between our hormones, so our estrogen and progesterone, and our neurotransmitters. So our neurotransmitters are like hormones that control our moods, emotions, and mental health. So what is being seen in women who suffer with PMS or PMDD is that the brain and our neurotransmitters are more sensitive to the natural fluctuations of our reproductive hormones, so our estrogen and progesterone there, and the response our brain is having to them is abnormal when it comes to our moods. Things that can upregulate this reaction is stress, in particular stress throughout the whole stage of our cycle. Certain nutrient deficiencies required for the production of our neurotransmitters, and large hormonal fluctuations or drops. So really big changes in our estrogen and progesterone ratios there, but also the way our genetics metabolize or break down things like our hormones and our stress hormones. While we're speaking about nutrient deficiencies, it's also important to note out that the oral contraceptive pill can cause nutrient deficiencies in some of these nutrients that are essential for these processes. So this can be a contributing factor as well, and is something to consider if you've been on it for quite some time. For other PMS symptoms like bloating, we know that changes in estrogen and progesterone can cause issues with fluid retention. So that makes the body hold on to more fluids. So you might feel a little bit more puffier or swollen. And also that estrogen changes can interfere with our microbiome, so our gut bugs, and our digestive function. So if we have an imbalanced microbiome or gut issues underlying like IBS, then the symptoms can potentially get worse before our period as the levels of our hormones change. Symptoms such as breast tenderness and pain can also be associated with higher levels of estrogen or poor estrogen clearance, and changes in skin can be down to other hormones, in particular our androgens. Really, so the underlying driver of PMS is a hormone neurotransmitter specific condition, and it's down to the individual underlying symptoms of imbalances for each woman.
And just to note as well, talking about some of these symptoms, it's really important to point out that there's a difference between PMS and PMDD. So PMDD is a more severe form of PMS. It's actually called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and it is a medical condition that needs medical attention and the correct treatment. So the exact cause is somewhat unknown, but we do know that hormonal changes that occur can play a role in things like serotonin deficiency. I know Cara pointed out a little bit about our neurotransmitters before, and serotonin is our feel-good hormone. So women with a family history of PMS or PMDD or any mood disorders are at higher risk. Some of the more severe symptoms that can happen with PMDD as compared to PMS include all the ones I mentioned earlier, but also things like suicidal thoughts, lack of interest in activities that you normally enjoy, nervousness, irritability, agitation, paranoia, crying spells, complete loss and lack of energy, and also things like hot flashes, decreased coordination, pins and needles in your hands, changes in your vision, heart palpitations, muscle spasms, dizziness, and pain in your muscles and joints. So as you can see, some of these things can be pretty severe and have a serious impact on your general well-being. And this is why this does require special attention. In general, if you haven't managed to solve a lot of your PMS concerns with all the possible diet and lifestyle changes, then it's probably time to see a doctor or other healthcare practitioner specializing in women's health to rule out any more serious conditions and get proper help and support. So Cara's just going to talk you through how you might distinguish your PMS symptoms from other symptoms and how you can sort of chart your cycle in terms of apps or diaries and any other recommendations.
Yeah, so PMS occurs in the luteal phase only. So that's after ovulation has occurred and just before the period. So as Kirsten said, PMS symptoms can linger out into the first couple of days of our bleed. But if what is happening is true PMS, then what we should see is a dissipation of those symptoms once your period begins. So recording your symptoms over a few months can be really helpful in determining your PMS patterns, but also to help distinguish whether it is true PMS or an exacerbation of an underlying issue that might be there all the time. And this is really important because the treatment approach will be very different when this is the case. So you can use an app to record your symptoms. Some examples include Flow or Clue. There's plenty out there. Personally, I really like a handwritten version because then you have something to compare each month with really easily, and you can also show it and share it with any other healthcare practitioner if you do need to get some help. So usually a minimum of 3 months of cycle charting symptoms is required for a proper diagnosis to be made by a GP, especially in instances such as PMDD. So if you are experiencing severe symptoms and you would like to get a proper diagnosis from your GP, starting something like this can get you on the path to a correct diagnosis. I actually have a free download on my website, a Pms Tracking Chart, so we can share that in the show notes for anyone who's interested in having a look at that. So Kirsten, what has been your own personal experience with PMS?
Yeah, so whilst I was studying a few years back, my cycle was really irregular and I wanted to go off birth control just because I was really bad at remembering to take the pill, and I got the birth control injection because I thought that'd be easier and it gave me acne. So at that point, I decided that I was going to try and track it more naturally. So I did use a different app and I was taking my temperature every day. That was called Natural Cycles. And then now I use Clue. I really think it's great. I like doing it that way just for myself because I've over the years kind of got a control over my symptoms. But whilst I was studying and working a lot, my period would come like every 2 weeks, or I would just completely miss it 1 month. And I was quite fortunate not to have like really severe pain, but I did have bloating and digestive symptoms like constipation and diarrhea mostly, and sore breasts. And it really wasn't until because I finished studying just over about a year and a half ago. And last year when we went on lockdown in London and we got put on furlough, and so we weren't working for a few months. And at that point, I was resting more. I was eating freshly made food every day, and like I started having flax seeds. I was going out for walks every morning. And it was only until that my cycle actually really started to regulate. And the kind of last remaining symptoms was just mostly like spotting before my period. And now that's even gone away as well. So my period has become quite regular. I don't usually have pain. And sometimes I maybe get like a little bit of bloating. But the only thing, just in this last cycle, I think I mentioned this on another episode, was that I got more severe cramping, but it was like 3 days into my period. So, and that was what I noticed due to alcohol intake. So that's something I will definitely be mindful of going forward. But yeah, so just the high stress lifestyle. I was also on a mostly plant-based diet for a really long time. And I don't know if this has been the case, but I did in the last year and a half also reintroduce meat back into my diet. So that may be part of the reason as to why my cycle might be becoming more regular now. But yeah, so I'm quite fortunate not to have experienced like really severe symptoms. That's mostly my journey. My period was quite regular when I was younger, although I kind of went on birth control at a really young age. So I don't even actually remember many of my symptoms that I had back then. And there's so many things that you can change. Like I said, I started having flax seeds, started going for daily walks, and, you can really make a difference if you just put a little bit of effort and faith into making some diet and lifestyle changes.
Yeah, definitely. So diet and lifestyle. And as you said, I think stress is such a hallmark to be treated when it comes to premenstrual symptoms and anything to do with your period, as you experienced, and I'm sure like so many other women do. So starting with diet, a healthy whole foods diet can provide the nutrients or building blocks required for healthy neurotransmitter production. So to help combat mood changes in your PMS symptoms, but also to help promote a strong production of sex hormones and help with the excretion or detoxification of them when they're in excess. So consuming adequate proteins is essential, as our neurotransmitters are made up of amino acids, which come from protein. So if you eat animal sources, making sure you're including lean sources of protein, such as meats in your diet, and plant-based sources too, such as legumes, tofu, and tempeh. If you are solely plant-based, then make sure you're looking at protein combining to make sure that you aren't missing out on any amino acids, which may affect your neurotransmitter production, which then can affect your moods. So consuming complex carbohydrates throughout the cycle can help keep your blood sugar levels stable and stress hormones under control, which contributes to mood dysfunction as well there. So healthy carbohydrates alongside proteins and fats in our main meals will help to keep sugar cravings at bay and energy levels up when it comes to the second half of our menstrual cycle. So things that you can do to combat bloating is to watch your salt consumption. So that's to help with the fluid retention there. We should be aiming to consume no more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. So checking the nutritional panel to make sure that you aren't eating too much salt. And it's really coming in foods such as processed meats, takeaways, pre-made meals, and it can also sneak in some breads and breakfast cereals as well there. Consuming foods high in magnesium and potassium to help balance out sodium levels can help with fluid retention, as well as magnesium is also a commonly deficient nutrient that plays a role in hormonal balance, but also helping with our mood and neurotransmitter production. Good sources of magnesium include nuts and seeds, legumes, whole grains, dark leafy green veggies, avo, bananas, tofu, and my favorite period-friendly source, which is dark chocolate. So as well as all of that, keeping hydrated to help flush out any excess sodium that the body may be holding on to, and being mindful of alcohol and caffeine consumption in the second phase of the menstrual cycle, as Kirsten has mentioned, because it can increase the likelihood of period pain due to inflammation, nutrient deficiencies, hormonal and neurotransmitter imbalances, and also can increase the likelihood of bloating due to gut irritation. Some general healthy production and elimination of reproductive hormone diet tips are to eat regular meals, consume at least 30 to 35 grams of fiber per day by eating a different variety of fruits, veggies, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, making sure you're including vegetables from the cruciferous family there as they help with estrogen detoxification pathways, looking at ways to minimize stress, whether it's implementing a mindfulness routine or ways that you can streamline your busy life to help reduce stress levels throughout the month. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And as I just said, avoid drinking excess amounts of alcohol and caffeine. There are other foods that you can add in, which I've left off the list, but Kirsten's mentioned, such as flax seeds, which are really high in fiber. They contain essential fatty acids that can help with inflammation, and they also contain a specific compound called lignans, which can help with estrogen balance. Did you have anything else to add, Kirsten?
Yeah, so there's a lot of really great tips in there, Cara. Thank you. I'm just going to expand a little bit on some possible supplements you can take. In terms of supplementing, I just want to point this out to start off with that it might be best to speak to a qualified practitioner before going ahead and jumping into taking a whole lot of supplements, as some may be contraindicated for certain people. And this, as an example, Agnus castus is a really popular supplement that people take for PMS symptoms, but with women who have certain forms of PCOS, this actually can make things worse. So just monitoring and being a bit more cautious of things before you take them. But I'm just going to go through a little bit of a run through of some things that you can think about taking and maybe speak to a professional about if you really want to try, especially with things like herbs. So starting off with Agnus castus, as I said, and this can be used for things like irritability, mood swings, breast tenderness, bloating, and cramps. And it's generally well tolerated and effective, but as I said, not for everybody and definitely not for pregnant or breastfeeding women. A lot of herbs, we just don't have enough data in terms of scientific studies on how if they can affect a woman when she's pregnant or breastfeeding in terms of the health of the baby. So not taking these things during that time is important. And also things like evening primrose oil. So evening primrose oil contains healthy fatty acids that helps to reduce inflammation. There isn't a whole lot of evidence that says it can help, but there's a lot of women who report that it's really good for breast pain in particular. Also, in terms of inflammation, fish oil or omega-3 fatty acids are very important. They've been shown to help with depressive symptoms, nervousness, anxiety, lack of concentration, bloating, headaches, and breast tenderness. You can get these fats through the diet or you can take them through a supplement, but it is incredibly important to have this included in your diet somehow because this nutrient is important for all aspects of your health. Also, vitamin D fits in that category as well. Extremely important for all aspects of your health, but it can be really beneficial to reduce the prevalence of PMS as well as pain during or before your period. And it's also really important for mental health, and it can reduce many of the more psychological symptoms associated with PMS. So other things as well include inositol. This can be helpful for mood-related PMS symptoms, as well as promoting blood sugar balance and help reduce cravings. So it's really commonly used in women with PCOS who have issues with blood sugar regulation. And then things like magnesium. Magnesium has a general calming effect that can help with headaches, anxiety, and sleep disorders. And many people nowadays aren't getting enough magnesium. And it's actually probably one of the most important nutrients when it comes to PMS. Magnesium helps the body with detoxification. And it has been seen and reported that in women with more severe PMS symptoms, they have lower red blood cell magnesium compared to women without symptoms. So yeah, very important. Also things like milk thistle, which is great for detoxification. It can help the liver get rid of excess hormones within the body. It can have a slight estrogenic effect, so it's not to be taken with women who have or have had breast cancer unless it's otherwise okayed by the GP. And then also calcium D-glucarate, which helps support the liver with detoxification of hormones as well and ensuring they're properly excreted from the body rather than recirculating and causing imbalances. And then also resveratrol helps with detoxification, and it's a potent antioxidant, so has an array of benefits. Some other really important ones are zinc, calcium, and B vitamins. You can get zinc through things like pumpkin seeds and I think some of the other things that Cara has already mentioned, but with your B vitamins, especially B6, these are crucial for hormonal balance and energy production within the body, and they help to make certain brain chemicals that influence mood and behavior. One of these being serotonin, as we mentioned before, is your feel-good hormone. And then calcium, because low levels of calcium are known to cause irritability, anxiety, low mood, fatigue, muscle cramps, stuff like that. And chronic low levels can lead to bones becoming brittle and increasing your risk of things like osteoporosis. So there's a lot of things you can try. That might have been a lot of information, but I mean, even just starting with basic things like if you're having troubles, you could start with a fish oil and a magnesium, and that's a good starting point to see where you go with that. But don't just jump in and try all those things at once. It's not necessarily the best way to go, and always, of course, diet and lifestyle should be your first pinpoint before supplementing.
Yeah, most definitely. And when it comes to supplementing in clinic, we have tools such as hormonal testing, like the Dutch test, which can really pinpoint for us where things are going wrong in terms of like hormonal metabolism, how methylation is going. So that's how your body is genetically processing your hormones and detoxing them, which can have a really big effect on your moods and your hormonal balance and things like that, as well as looking at thyroid function, your cortisol function, and looking for any nutrient deficiencies there.
And also clinically, what we would do, right, is if you are on any medications, you'd need to really be checking to make sure that none of these supplements are interacting with the medications you're on. So that's another reason why it's important not to just jump in and buy anything and everything off the internet.
Yes, most definitely. Especially when it comes to our hormones and our neurotransmitters, we can be really sensitive to implementing supplementation in a good or a bad way.
And as you said, genetic testing and testing can be such a great way to really figure out what's going on. I know with myself, I've had some genetic testing done, and I've realized that, I have issues with certain detoxification pathways, and I have issues with my methylation, as you mentioned, and, all these things that now that I know, I can go and have a tailored supplement plan for myself to prevent any sort of health risks that might be the case in my future, essentially.
Yeah, it can give you so much detailed advice about your body and how it functions that you just really don't know unless you test.
Yeah.
But I hope some of the advice that we've given today has given you somewhere that you can start when it comes to combating your PMS, and also an understanding of what might be going on within the body, and then ways that you can look at approaching your symptoms, whether that be implementing some of the recommendations in terms of diet and lifestyle, looking at some magnesium and B6 supplementation, your calcium intake, things like that, or whether you think that you might need a little bit more advice from a professional.
So unfortunately, this episode is the last of our season 1. Thank you so much for all of those of you who have followed along on this journey with us and listened to all our episodes. We really appreciate the support, and please continue to keep sharing so that we can help as many women as possible. We will be back for a season 2. And if you have any feedback or any topics that you think that might be an interesting thing to discuss in the future, we really welcome feedback, and please reach out and let us know, because we really want to create just the best content that we can to help as many women as possible live their best life.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening into season 1 and for all of your support. We can't express how much we appreciate it.
And one last time, until next time. Thank you for listening to our show today. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you subscribe, let us know what you thought in the comments, and share it with all the important women in your life. There are plenty more of these episodes to come, so please visit our website to stay in the know. You will find us at womanthings.com. That's WOMXN. Much love, Kirsten and Cara.
The information contained in this podcast is not intended to treat, diagnose, or replace the advice of your healthcare practitioner. Always consult with a qualified health professional if you have a pre-existing health condition or are currently taking any medications before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle.